Today it is part 4 or module 4 of the Ted Reed Syncopation book, and this particular module is going to focus on another type of linear pattern, triplet linear phrases. The idea behind this one is that you're accenting with the right hand over top of the phrase while filling in again with the left hand and the right foot. The only difference here is that we're doing it on triplet phrases or swung phrases. Now this one, for some of you who don't read as much or don't quite have as good of reading chops as some others, might find it a little tough to go through, but there is an available PDF for this. If you're interested in getting a copy, you can email me at aaronspinkdrums@gmail.com, or you can go over to my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/aaronspink, and have a look at the reward tiers to basically see what fits for you. But let's kind of break this down, and I'll do my best to help you understand what this looks like. Again, if you also have a copy of Ted Reed's Syncopation book and follow along through the video and through this explanation, it will also make it a little bit easier for you. So the first real important thing to understand when it comes to playing this module or practicing it is that we're interpreting every pattern we see on the page as a swung rhythm. Not to go too in depth with that and overcomplicate it, but we're essentially taking every group of 2 eighth notes, which we would normally count as 1 and 2 and we're swinging them, which means that it's representing the first and last eighth notes of a triplet grouping. So that turns it into 1 and 2 and . So my right hand is accenting that for the performance. I did it on the high tom. You could pick any part of the kit that you want. And we're essentially filling in that gap on the triplet with the left hand. So that would look and sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. One way you can interpret that, if you want, is basically like a halftime or a pretty shuffle. So something similar to like Toto's Rosanna. Uses that particular pattern, right, left, right, right. So that should give you an idea of your interpretation of the swung phrase of the eighth note patterns that we're going to have in this. The next obvious phrase we want to go through is the quarter note phrases. So pretty self-explanatory based on what we did before. You're just putting triplet eighth notes over every quarter note grouping. Right hand represents the downbeat on the quarter note, and you're going to fill in the gaps with your left hand and right foot. Basically just going right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, kick, and so on. So if I had, a bar or 2 of quarter notes, it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and a. The next phrase I recommend going through would be half note groupings, or just half bar phrases. So we're taking our group of right, left, kick, and then just adding kick, left, kick at the end of that. So right, left, kick, kick, left, kick. That would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and a. For anybody who's looked at my previous videos, module 2 specifically, one of the grouping that I have in there is what I call the Steve Gadd 6-stroke. It's basically a 6-stroke roll where the middle doubles in your right hand are replaced by your right foot. So that becomes right, left, left, kick, kick, left. That's another possible phrase that you could use in your group of 6 that would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and a. And you can also add that very last left leading back into your accented right hand you can add an accent on that as well. That would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and So with the less complicated patterns out of the way, let's focus on common half bar phrases. The reason for focusing on these is that what you're going to notice is that there are different versions or different interpretations of each measure as you go through them, based simply on the placement of the notes. One of the easiest ways to start off with this, though, is recognizing the common phrase of eighth note, quarter note, eighth note. So if we look in the first 4 bars of the entire piece or the entire page, you'll notice the first bar is an eighth note, quarter note, eighth note grouping followed by 2 quarter notes. The second bar is 2 quarter notes, and then it's an eighth rest, quarter, eighth note grouping. So it's essentially that first bar flipped. First half comes last, last half comes first, and that eighth note that we have on beat 3 is a rest. Bar 3 is the exact same bar as number 2, but we're putting the eighth note back in on beat 3 instead of a rest. And bar 4 is the same as bar number 1 minus the last quarter note. Now, even though we've got a lot of common phrases here, this will definitely break down into different ways of interpreting it as we play the different phrases we have here. But let's start orchestrating the eighth note, quarter note, eighth note phrase first. As we go through that one, we know that our right hand is playing the pattern of the eighth, quarter note, eighth. When we play that, it's going to be a swung feel, which will be 1 and 2 and So if I had, and in fact, if you have your text out, you can look at bar 5. Bar 5 is repeating that phrase twice. Eighth, quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, eighth. So that one would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and So what we've got there, right, left, right, would be your eighth, quarter, eighth, and then it's a triplet grouping leading into the last eighth note. So right, left, kick, right. So if I repeated that, and this is essentially bar 5 in the text, or just 1 half bar repeated of eighth, quarter, eighth, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and So a little faster. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Once you become more comfortable with playing that particular phrase, it then becomes easier to play phrases such as eighth, quarter, eighth, rest. So in that case, all we're doing, instead of finishing off with the right hand, we're completing the rest of the triplet grouping with a kick, kick. So it becomes right, left, kick, kick. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Another variation of that particular phrase as well is taking the group of 4 that we did in our module 2 linear video on 16th, but we're just applying it to triplets. So right, left, kick. So that last part of it creates a group of 4, so we can go right, left, kick if we want. That would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and last but not least, the very last bar, which is our longest grouping or longest phrase that we've got in here, where it's going to have a lot of different variances between the left hand and the right foot, would go something like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and So if I repeat that last grouping, it's right, left, kick, kick, left, kick, left. So it's essentially a group of 7. Right, left, kick, left, right, left, kick, left, kick, left. because this is a longer phrase without any accents impeding the phrase or chopping it up, we can get more creative with how we play that particular pattern to end the entire exercise. So here are a couple that I've come up with. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and after you've gotten a little bit more comfortable with the module itself and how to play these phrases with the reading of the material in the book, I recommend kind of breaking away from it, or maybe using a lot of these in a musical example. You have to remember that it's not just about being able to play the exercise itself, it's about being able to absorb it as your own vocabulary. So maybe take 1-bar phrases or 2-bar phrases of these groupings and maybe just kind of play them around the kit, understanding different parts of the drums and the way that your kit is laid out, just to create different sounds, but also understanding placement of phrases and creating basically drum fills or particular break parts that you can use in your own musical settings and situations.